won $20,000 in Roanoke last year, and Todd Anderson, who walked out with just a little bit less than that, $10,000. So congratulations to those two guys. They'll shake hands. They're good friends. And we are underway here in round number 13 from Baltimore. It's a wandering funeral here for Anderson. For Davis and his Bant Company deck, he will start, I believe, with an Evolving Wilds, and there it is. So this is going to be kind of back and forth. You know, Todd's deck is a control deck, but it can speed up pretty quickly because of Thing in the Ice and some other things. You see him casting a Tormenting Voice, discarding a Drowned Temple.
Yeah, it's a control-ish deck. He's looking to not get too far behind in the beginning of the game and then turn the corner with Thing in the Ice and doubling up on spells through the Pyromancer's Goggles. It's kind of interesting because Jim has the ability to deploy something like Reflector Mage at instant speed through a Collected Company to send the Thing in the Ice back in his hand. So Jim might be pretty well situated to play against a deck like this. He's going to get some creatures on the board early. His creatures have pretty powerful effects, and then he's got instant speed threats through things like Collected Company.
Thing in the Ice, another copy of Wandering Funeral and a passing of the turn. Jim's going to take a look at Thing in the Ice, and of course we can do the same thing. You better get familiar with this one.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be seeing a lot of play, especially if Todd's able to make the top 8 here this weekend. It's an 0-4. Defender enters the battlefield with 4 ice counters on it. You play an instant or a sorcery, you remove an ice counter, and then it transforms into Awoken Horror, in which that bounces on all non-horror creatures. And it just happens to be a 7-8 because, sure.
It's a big boy.
Yeah.
And I like Jim taking it out of the sleeve and reading it like he hasn't seen this card before.
Well, better safe than sorry. That's all I can say.
Yeah, this is one you don't want to make a mistake with.
Yeah.
But I'm sure Jim knew exactly what was going on there.
So Jim's got his Sylvan Advocate. We'll see if he has any interest in attacking here or not. He also has a copy of Reflector Mage, and he will play Reflector Mage, get Thing in the Ice out of here. An attack for 2 will bring Anderson down to 18. And Todd will take his 4th turn of the game. He'll start by drawing a card, picked up a copy of Highland Lake, and he'll start by playing Highland Lake.
And it seemed like Jim thought a second about waiting until a couple of counters were removed from Thing in the Ice before he wanted to bounce it. But by bouncing it now, he gets to get some damage in. He takes Todd off of an entire turn, and he advances his board state.
Also, there's a chance that he draws another Reflector Mage and gets to bounce it again.
Yes.
So that's certainly appealing, and that's something these decks are very good at doing. As Davis will attack for 4, Anderson's going to fall down to 14. It's a Lumbering Falls and a passing of the turn for Jim. Todd is going to activate his Drown Temple from the graveyard. You called it Delayed Madness.
Yep.
And it certainly feels that way as it does ramp him up a land.
Oh, the synergies.
Todd at the end of that turn had 4 lands. Now he's got 5. He could play his 6th and cast Chandra right now, which, if you think about it, is pretty absurd, actually.
Yeah. The ahead of schedule Chandra is pretty potent. What he's thinking about here is if his opponent has Bounding Crassus. You know, Jim played a land that came in play tap, passed the turn. Jim's deck has lots of creatures that he can play for 3 mana, so it's pretty unlikely that he just had no play last turn. So if he's passing the turn with 3 mana up, probably a Bounding Crassus in his hand.
There's a Thing in the Ice from Anderson. We saw that earlier in the game.
So Todd could have deployed Chandra, cleaned up the board, but then Bounding Crassus would come in during the end step and finish off the Chandra.
Bounding Crassus is going to come in now, however, and it is going to tap Thing in the Ice. And now, hello, Fall of the Titans. Jim wants to take a look. It's in a different language. We can help him do that, or at least we can help our viewers do that, because this card has been absurd every time Todd has cast it.
Well, and the story from their testing was that these were in the decks as proxies for Avacyn's Judgment.
Yeah, this story is really good.
And they're playing the games, and after a little bit they realized that it's just better than the card it was supposed to be a proxy for.
Yeah. So Fall of the Titans is going to deal 3 to each of those creatures. And now Jim is just left with the Reflector Mage.
That was a very good turn for Todd.
The thing about Fall of the Titans is it's comically easy to surge in this deck.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if this is a card that you can play 4 of, and it seems like that's a lot of them, but every time he's cast it, it's been awesome.
Yep. He's come equipped with 2 of them this weekend. Like you said, every time we've seen him play it, it's been really powerful. And we got to see him cast it with the goggles one time.
Yeah.
So instead of dealing it to 2 targets, it's 4 targets.
You know what I call that? That's a Magic Online Crasher.
Just Moto cannot handle.
I don't know how this works. That's it. That's it. That's just going down. It's a more fear for Jim.
I'm under a little too much stress. Just shut me down.
Yeah. We go back Todd's way. He's got quite a few lands in hand. He's tapping a bunch of mana, so it looks like a Chandra time, and it is.
Which is so good. That morph out of Jim was almost certainly a Hidden Dragon Slayer. a creature that hasn't seen much play previously, but it lines up very well against the Eldrazi in the format right now, and with the decks being more limited in colors, you need to be... Okay, it was a Den Protector.
It was a Den Protector, but all the same, he still was able to get the job done and kill those creatures.
Yep.
So we head back Jim's way. Thing the ice on 3 counter, Chandra on 1.
And yeah, Todd seems to be very comfortably in control during the mid-game, which is where he wants to be. Things didn't get out of control too quick. And I would pick him as a big favorite in the game right now.
Nissa is going to search for a basic forest. Jim will deploy that forest, play Sylvan Advocate. Advocate has 6 lands on the battlefield. It's a 4/5. Nissa, there's 6 lands. With a 7th one, it'll transform into the Sage Animus. So Jim is certainly fighting. That's for sure.
Yep.
Anderson's hand is okay. It's not the best hand we've ever seen, but he could push that 0 button on Chandra here and try to get a new hand.
Well, he's Wandering Fumarole as a resource that can help him fight some of these other creatures in combat. Like you said, he has Chandra on the board already. He has Thing in the Ice down to 2 counters. He's just drawn 2 fresh cards. So there's still a lot going on here.
2 counters on Thing in the Ice now. Todd did pick up a copy of Lightning Axe. Now, one of the things about Lightning Axe I think people forget is that you can just cast it normally. You don't have to discard
pay
it.
the 6.
Yeah, it's a little more expensive, but it does get the job done all the same. Looks like Lightning Axe will be cast. Discard an island. Get that Sylvan Advocate out of here. Thing in the Ice is going to fall down to 1 counter. And I'm still very interested to see how Todd wants to go about using this Chandra because he has not activated it yet.
Sure. By killing the creature, I think he's opening up the way for some elementals. But he might be interested in discarding and drawing the extra card. Yep.
Yeah, so he's going to draw 2 cards. He just wanted to deploy all of those cards first. And he's found a copy of the Goggles now.
So between Jace on the board, the Chandra, which can do the same thing again next turn, netting him an extra card, and the Goggles in his hand, he's going to have a lot of options.
Yeah, next turn looks to be a scary one for Jim Davis. I just don't think he knows how scary it's going to be as he draws a Jace for the turn. Davis with a Jace in the grip. Hidden Dragon Slayer over there as well. Not too much going on at this stage. If he does have a 7th land, of course, he can transform Nissa, but you can tell the player's champion, the man who defeated Todd Anderson at the end of last year, he knows he's in some trouble this game.
Well, and Jim always plays very carefully. You don't see him make any sloppy mistakes during his games. He's wondering if he should get this Hidden Dragon Slayer on the board now.
Looks like he's going to go with Bounding Crassus here. Shut that down. Nissa going to go after Chandra. He might see Jace jump block. Oh, he's going to let Chandra go. Todd feeling as though Jace is more important than Chandra at this stage. Does Jim have a follow-up?
His own Jace?
Yep. One of the reasons I don't think Todd cares is because I think there's going to be a Fall of the Titans coming in a moment as he picked up a copy of Tormenting Voice. Todd's turn, no matter what happens here, is insane.
Yes.
Here's an activation of Jace. Time to draw and discard. Jorien has been found.
Which is just another good card. With all of the lands at his disposal.
Look, I'm a big fan of white right now.
Yeah.
I think the white cards are really powerful and all that stuff.
But
I like Todd's deck a lot.
yeah, watching him do his things, he looks at so many cards. He churns through his deck so fast.
Yeah.
And he's doing things that other decks aren't prepared to deal with.
Transformation on Jace complete. There are the Goggles. Todd going to use the Goggles. Tormenting Voice. Discard 1 card to draw 4 cards. Oh, and this, by the way. Transformation into the Awoken Horror. Pick up all that stuff. And now Todd will draw the 4. You have my Coast, a Kozilek's Return, a Dronyard Temple, another Dronyard Temple.
And this is before Jace has even done its thing for the turn.
Hasn't even used the Telepath Unbound yet. Yavimaya Coast is the land for the turn. Jace is going to go down. Tormenting Voice is going to be recast. Discard Dranyard Temple for all that value. 2 cards coming. 1 is a Lightning Axe. 2 is another copy of the Goggles. And 7 is the amount that he'll be attacking Jim Davis for. Brings him down to 13.
Small swing in this game.
Just a bit. He's just built the thing that this deck does so well. We've seen a lot of decks try to do this so far this weekend, but this deck builds to 1 big turn.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And that last turn that we just watched from Todd Anderson was awesome.
Yeah, when he goes from defense to offense, it's clear to everyone.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden Jim is on the back foot, and he's got to figure out a way to beat this Awoken Horror. This Jace that's got 2 counters. And oh, by the way, the Pyromancer's Goggles, which has likely some things to do with it next turn and the turns after that.
And with Jim's whole hand full of creatures that used to be on the battlefield, he's got tons of options here. So he might be thinking, all right, things aren't that crazy yet. He can replay Nissa, find a land, play the land, transform the Nissa, pass the turn, plays Bounding Crassus, tap down the Horror, and then he's got pretty decent board presence. He hasn't taken any damage from the Horror, and he can build back from that position.
Yeah, he can hope that Todd's hand is not much of anything. Now, we see the Lightning Axe in Todd's hand.
Sure, well, and Todd just drew all those cards.
Yep. See if Jim wants to start by playing a Forest, or if he wants to go Evolving Wilds. Because he wants to go to the Wilds first. This will transform the Nissa into the Sage Animist. We'll see if Jim wants to go up or down. Starts on 3 counters no matter what, however.
I expect him to put the Elemental on the board. He doesn't have a whole lot of time to be messing around, trying to draw extra cards. His game plan has to be very immediate. This turn, next turn, maybe the turn after that.
The Elemental will be on the way. It's the 4/4 Ashaya, the Awoken World. Legendary Elemental, by the way. So there's Jim's 4/4. Well, we'll use this Elemental for the time being. Perhaps someone thieved our real Ashaya.
Some people.
I know. Now there's Bounding Crassus to take care of the Awoken Horror. Not going to let that attack. Now Jim would like to shortcut a little bit by sacrificing Evolving Wilds. Yeah, it looks like Todd might be thinking Wandering Fumarole into the red zone here. And I think the reason we're going to see that is because he wants to get that Nissa off the battlefield. So he's going to use the Goggles to cast a Lightning Axe, to discard a Temple, to kill the 2 creatures. Because the Goggles is busted.
Yeah.
When it gets to stay on the table.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jim deploy a creature that turned into a Planeswalker and then have 2 creatures on the board, and it seems like this is a position that he can play out of. And 1 turn later, he's getting the turn back without any non-land permanents on the board.
Jamoka's command the draw here for Jim. He's going to have to try to rebuild again.
Yeah, getting out of this situation is going to involve some collected companies or some reflector mages. Just trying to keep up 1-for-1 card value is not going to work out in this situation.
See what comes next here for Davis. Looks like he's going to be hitting Dragon Slayer face down. Todd says, you know what? Let me get a little more value. Let me get that land back. Thank you much.
And he'll use all of them.
Yeah. That card's really something. You know, with one of the things that always happens during, preview season, you take a look at the big mythics.
Yep.
And the Jaces and the Sorens and the Arlen Cords of the world. Sometimes you miss a card like this Dranyard Temple, which is just kind of a rare, just kind of hangs out, doesn't do a ton, but the acceleration that Todd is getting from this is certainly relevant.
Yeah, like I said, when the set came out, I think it's easy to see this card and not understand how powerful it can be. It's just so simplistic.
I think Todd's going to be going for Fall of the Titan here. He's looking to probably go for the big W. And so what happens is this happens 4 times. which is a lot of times.
Yes. He said, I'll target the morph twice, and I'll target you twice.
Yep. Jamoka's command.
It's going to prevent the damage that one of them deals?
Yeah, so it can prevent the damage that like the real one deals, or the one that the copy deals, but it can't prevent both. Now here's Hidden Dragon Slayer to kill that. So I have to imagine, yeah, Jim's going to lose Hidden Dragon Slayer, and he's going to lose some amount of life, but I do not think that he is dead right now.
No, that was about as well as that could turn out for Jim.
Yeah.
Still not great for Jim.
Yeah, no, not great. Not great. So Davis fell down to 6, and he said, I can't beat your Wandering Fumarals, or I don't want to play against the Pyromancer's Goggles anymore, and he's going to concede the game. So Todd Anderson does win game number 1 here over Jim Davis. Blue Red Control up a game over Bant Company as these players do chat about some things and get ready here for game number 2. We're going to do the exact same thing, which means we're going to take a look at the sideboards here between Jim Davis and Todd Anderson. We will start on Jim's side in his Tireless Tracker. His Den Protector is additional copy of Hidden Dragon Slayer. 2 Lantern Scout, 2 Declaration in Stone, 2 Invocation of Saint Traft, no size command, 2 Clipwings, and 3 Negates.
Jim has a lot of good options for this matchup. If he thinks that things are going to go longer, cards like Tireless Tracker and Den Protector are going to have a lot of value. The Hidden Dragon Slayer we saw can be very good against the Awoken Horror. The Declaration in Stones are super clean answers to Jace and Thing in the Ice, and the Negates are great at fighting everything that Todd's trying to do.
On the other side of things here for Todd, 4 Eldrazi Obligator, 4 Fevered Visions, 3 Negate, 2 Void Chattering Chandra, and another copy of Kozilek's Return.
I expect Todd to get even more control-ish. We saw that as long as he makes it into the mid-game and he's not too far behind, that his deck is doing more powerful things. So bringing in Negates and the additional Chandra Flamecaller will allow him to control the game and get to the point where he wants to be.
And those are the options there for both players, and what a fun matchup this is going to be. These are, at least to me, again, we've watched a lot of decks this weekend. Might be the 2 most impressive decks that we've seen. Jim on this Bant Company deck that Kevin Jones helped design, and then Todd with his Blue-Red Control deck. I know we've seen a lot of white-based stuff, and we've been pretty excited about that, but these are kind of the 2 outliers that have been really impressive so far.
Well, Collected Company is still really powerful. Anytime that you can pay 4, search up 2 potent threats, and sometimes it's going to be cards like Tireless Tracker and Reflector Mage. That's very powerful.
Well, as these players do shuffle up, it'll be Jim Davis on the play, and we will talk very quickly about StarCityGames.com Game Night, the very popular promotion. We thank you for playing in it at your local stores. You can go to go.starcitygames.com/game-night for more information. Now, every week in April,
who doesn't love a puppy?
Right?
Come on.
Slobbering Mile Driver to play on, of course, Goblin Pile Driver. Now, if we work our way into May, because this month is right around the corner, that's a Mandatory Mentor. Of course, that's a play on Monastery Mentor.
Very wise creature.
Of course. Now, in June, this is our good friend Otter Spell, Craig, which is a play on
Lightning Bolt.
Absolutely. So in June, you can go ahead and get yourself an Otter Spell as well. Go to StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. And of course, we do thank each and every one of you for playing and making this promotion as popular as it has become as we get ready for Game 2.
Otters love lightning, man.
They sure do. I think Todd Anderson is the player that we will learn a little bit more about, as you will see the number 26 on this graphic for the number of open top 8s that he does have, though he is well on his way for number 27.
That's not just his age.
No. Though it would be awesome if he has more open top 8s than his age, which is going to happen.
Yeah, I was about to say he's working his way there.
Yeah, almost assuredly. I know he turns 30 this year, but he'll have 30 open top 8s soon enough. 6 wins, 3 invitational top 8s, 1 invitational win, and a runner-up finish in the Players' Championship last year. It's been a heck of a run for Todd over the past couple of years. We love seeing him on the SCG Tour, and we know he loves playing on it, and he is dominant when he does. For Jim Davis, of course, the Long Island native, he's going to see if he can tie things up here between him and Todd. Though, Jim, these guys have played before. You always kind of keep track of your record against maybe some opponents.
Sure,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And it might be, I don't know the record between them. It might be like Todd 6, Jim 1, but Jim has the one that matters the most in the finals of the Players' Championship last year. You see 9 open top 8s, 1 win, 2 invitational top 8s, and 1 Players' Championship title, and he is your reigning champion on the SCG Tour. So he's got the big one over Anderson, but, getting a win like this is a little bit of retribution.
Yes.
The smallest one, but it's a little bit.
You only need to remember the ones that matter.
That's true. I imagine both these guys are very competitive. Mm-hmm. I'm sure, if you talk to Tyson, I like Jim a lot. They're really good friends. Like, I want to get this one.
You don't see these guys playing a whole lot of casual Magic.
No, you don't. Todd wants to get this one as best he can. He'll play a Tormenting Voice, discarding Magnetic Insight. Pyromancer's Goggles and Fiery Temper the draw. So perhaps Anderson does not have a third land. Oh, I see a Shivan Reef there, so he's okay. Davis with the Duskwatch Recruiter. And we'll see how he wants to play this. A lot of the time what we've seen with Jim is that we haven't really seen him activated very much, but it has transformed a lot.
Yes. And having a lot of flash cards like Bounding Crassus means he can allow it to transform, still deploy a threat on his opponent's turn, and then have the benefit of the transformed creature on his own turn. But for the first time, we get to see the Duskwatch recruit go recruiting.
See what he finds. Looks like it might just be another recruit, though he could take Jace, but he's going to go with another recruiter.
That Jace, 5 turns from now.
Yeah, could be pretty good.
Yeah.
Jace has just gotten so much worse. There's the Callan Horde Howler. And this has let Jim play some kind of weird game states as well, because when this is transformed, you play a 4th land, you can represent Avacyn that way. You can also represent something like Bounding Crassus plus a counterspell, and I think it's smart for Todd to just play Fiery Temper right now. He's going to kill it anyway, so no nonsense. Let's just get this thing off the board.
Yeah, you could just double 3-drop and just get some threats on the board right away.
We're going to head back Davis's way now. See what's next here for Davis. Looks like he's got a lot of options in his hand.
Yeah, obviously on the 4th turn, he would love to be casting Collected Company, but does not have it right now.
I'm just going to go with a Sylvan Advocate and leave 2 mana available. Jim with maybe some slight mana issues right now, just 1 green source of mana. One of the things about these Bant Company decks that we have seen so far, really no mana issues yet.
They've been running really well. But Todd has to be happy with the way this game's playing out currently. This slow 1-for-1 back and forth lets him set up for the mid game where his deck shines.
There's a Canopy Vista. And green mana not going to be much of an issue anymore here for Jim. Jim says, let me attack for 2 with my Vigilant Creature. Todd will take the 2. Fall down to 15.
And it looks like Todd's setting up for the big Axe Fiery Temper.
The 1-2 punch.
Yeah, the old 1-2.
He'll have to take 1 damage to do it, but here is a Lightning Axe, and there is Fiery Temper. What's Davis got in response to this, if anything? He's going to activate the Recruiter. Nissa is an option, so is Sylvan Advocate. You can see in Jim's hand right now, he does have an Archangel Avacyn.
Yeah, and Jim started out attacking, hoping that Todd would try to just burn out his creature and he could save it with the Archangel. Didn't happen. He'll try to do it again next turn.
It's just a 2-for-2 trade here, though I suppose Jim will get a card off his Recruiter.
Yep.
So. He takes a Nissa. Anderson with a Mountain, and Trouble's here. And there's the Goggles. Now we go Jim's way. Picked up another Canopy Vista. Can he overcome this card? That's the question. It's very, very, very hard to do unless you kill it.
And it's interesting, there's not a lot of artifact hate in the format right now. There was a question if Grafdigger's Stone was going to be an accelerant that people played a lot of. And if people are playing that, people might show up with more cards like Colgan's Command to try to get it off the board quick. But with none of that happening, the Goggles are all by themselves to do their thing.
Here's 5 mana. Well, it looks like it's going to be 6. It'll be Chandra. See how Anderson wants to use this. It'll start on 4.
Yeah, it looks like he wants to go for a new hand.
Which I think is wise because he's just got 2 Goggles, so he's going to draw 3 cards. See what comes next here. Just a passing of the turn. Archangel Avacyn, is it your time to shine? It is. It's the kind of card that can check Chandra all by itself.
You know, I thought Jim had nothing when he passed the turn with all of his
Yeah.
Every time they get me. I just...
Yeah, fresh out of gas. Down goes Chandra.
Is it 6 cards in my hand, 6 lands in play? I'll just pass the turn.
Now, Jim is looking to be in pretty good shape right now in this game. He's going to play a Nissa, going to get to search up a forest. That'll be land number 7. Play the forest, transform it, and then activate it as he pleases. One of the only cards that could catch Todd up in this situation is actually Pyromancer Goggles, which he currently has. Now, I don't think he has much in his hand to go along with it at this stage. Looks like 2 things in the ice and then a Wandering Fumarole. But with the right draw steps, he could really work himself back into this game. Jim will get the 4/4.
Yeah, if Todd draws any of his card drawing spells and he can double them up through the Goggles, it'll help him get right back into this game.
Many things in the ice, a Wandering Fumarole, and just a passing of the turn here from Anderson. You mentioned it's about the card drawing spells right now. It's about Tormented Voice. It's about Magnetic Insight, it appears. Davis going to tap 3 mana. Looks like Bounding Crassus on the end step, perhaps.
Yeah, he's trying to get this game over with as fast as
I
possible.
think that's a pretty good idea if you're Jim. You do not want to play much longer against Pyromancer's Goggles because they can take over the game all by itself. Got a plus Nissa. Reveal a top card. Tireless Tracker is the reveal. That'll go to Jim's hand.
That's a good one in the mid-game.
Now might be a good time for Reflector Mage. We'll see if Davis wants to cast it.
And we see Jim trying to play as fast as possible, but also still being very careful and deliberate with his plays.
There's a Tracker. Canopy Vista. Clue on the way. Reflector Mage. Thing in the ice out of the way. Bunch of damage coming through.
Looks like 11.
Sure does.
Boom.
Anderson going to fall down to 3. Now, one card that can turn around for Anderson right now actually is another copy of Chandra. Let's see what he draws for the turn. It's just another mountain, another copy of Thing in the Ice in the hand, and that is going to do it. Jim Davis going to tie things up here against Todd Anderson. Bant Company, Blue-Red Control, getting ready here for game number 3.
Yeah, Chandra would have been pretty good off the top there.
But not game over.
No, certainly not. Jim still would have had his Planeswalker in play. But all of his board would be gone, all of the threats.
We'll take a look at the sideboards one more time. Each player is going to go back to the drawing board. And this is one thing that you see great players do. They play a second game, and they go back to the sideboard for a third game because now they've picked up some more information. You have to imagine some things are going to change.
Yeah.
Not entirely sure what their plans are, but they're each going to at least go back to the drawing board, consider their options, and get ready for that third game. Not surprising to see a card like Avison play a role here in that game.
That's an okay card.
And it does just fine, I think you could say. Well, we just talked about our game night collection that is going on, and of course that very popular promotion. So we'll talk about our April creature collection very quickly as well, because we've taken the Slobbering Mile Driver, and well, we put it on some other things. You know, it's pins and tokens right now, but we got sleeves. We got play mats and player bundles, obviously, that you can go to go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. And we've also got some cute little creatures as well, like our good friend Los Tigre.
Yeah, the little cubs playing in the watering hole.
Yeah, they're having a great time. Playmat sleeves and player bundles available of both of these and a bunch more at go.starcitygames.com/creature collection. So go check those out and get ready to check out game number 3 here between two of the SCG Tour's very best in Jim Davis, Todd Anderson.
That was Stripes and Snarls.
What's that?
The Cubs.
Oh, you named them already?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? I'm in.
Yeah.
I especially like Snarls. I don't want to call them Sir Snarlsworth or anything. I think just Snarls is good.
Okay.
Stripes and Snarls in the house.
Mama's very proud.
Anderson will be on the play here for game number 3. You saw a big difference between game 1 and game 2. Todd's deck was a lot more fluid in game 1.
Yeah.
Saw a lot more cards, had access to Jace, Thing in the Ice, transformed all of that stuff. His deck was working on all cylinders. In game 2, not so much.
Yeah, it seems to start with cards like the Tormenting Voice and the Magmatic Visions that allows him to churn through the deck and find the right pieces at the right time. And in Jace, another card that does that for him too.
Looks like both these players are going to take a mulligan very quickly here, so they'll be looking at 6 cards.
We see Jace coming out of some of these other decks, being played in some of these other decks, but Todd's deck uses it better than any of the other decks that we've seen.
Yeah, you know, like this Bant Company deck, I don't think that it uses Jace all that well. Like, I'm not advocating removing Jace, because Jace is still a very powerful card, and it does give you the opportunity to flashback Collected Company and just kind of fix your draw a little bit. But I think that Todd's deck is a much more Jace-centric deck than Jim's is.
Yes. It'll get flipped much faster with more consistency. We saw a game where Jim activated the Recruit. He had not a single card in his graveyard yet, and he looked at a Jace, and it was not close to being an option.
Yeah, where before that would be an easy option.
Yeah.
I think you would take a Jace over another copy of the Recruiter very quickly. This one was a little more simple for Jim, where he took another Recruiter. Looks like Anderson's going to keep his opening hand. We'll see how Davis feels about his. Looks like they're both going to keep. They're both going to scry. Todd will put his to the bottom.
Okay, so they each mold.
Yep. Davis is going to leave his on top, and we're underway here for game number 3. Anderson with a Highland Lake. Davis with an Evolving Wilds. Anderson will play a copy of Wandering Fumarole, and Jim will sacrifice his Evolving Wilds. We'll see him search up a basic here in just a moment.
What do you think, a waste?
I think anything but a waste is a good choice. I'd rather see Jim get a swamp than get a waste. An island here for Davis. There's a forest. That's an advocate. Important to have pressure to start.
Yeah, he's going to get on the board. We saw what looked like a couple negates in his hand.
There we go. Todd sequenced that in a weird way.
Yeah.
But a Tormenting Voice, discarding a Fiery Temper, Advocate off the battlefield, and now we pass the turn back.
He thought he was putting one card on the field. Felt a little awkward when he realized it wasn't the card he initially thought.
Yeah, he could technically hard cast the Fiery Temper there. But
and he was like, no, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Anderson will draw. Picked up a thing in the ice. It's a Jace. It's a Lightning Axe. What's the discard? The discard is another Lightning Axe. That also means 4 cards in the graveyard right now for Jace, which means it can transform very soon.
Lickety split.
Yep.
And like we said, Todd keeping control of the game going into this.
Looks a lot more like Game 1 than Game 2 thus far.
Yeah, Jim ideally wanted to have 1 or 2 creatures on the board here and start passing with his negates up and the potential collected companies and things like that.
Land 4 for Anderson. Thing in the ice. 4 counters. Now, what's going to be interesting about this, Todd's hand right now is Tormenting Voice and Pyromancer's Goggles.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has a Jace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he wants to use Jace.
All of these cards are so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really want to discard the goggles.
Absolutely not.
But he wants to see more cards. Like, yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Here's Bounding Crassus. Thing in the ice is going to get tapped. Go back to Jim. Jim picked up a Jace. Jim also has 2 negates and a Canopy Vista. There's an attack for 3. Anderson will fall down to 17.
Yeah, and Todd could block and transform his Jace, take no damage. But like you said, the cards in his hand are so valuable that he does not want to discard either of them.
There's Davis's Jace, and this might change what Anderson does now because Jace is that powerful. Anderson will draw. Chandra.
Now, he's far enough away from Chandra that I wouldn't be surprised to see him discard that card.
Okay. He'll activate Jace, draw a card, Highland Lake the draw.
So awkward. The land comes to play tapped.
Yeah.
He wants to get the goggles on the board ASAP. He also has the Chandra for a turn or 2 down the road, which would be a very good card for him. So he's going to have to pick his poison here, you know? Which path is he going to go with?
It's actually a really tough choice. This is probably the most critical choice of the game for him right now. It basically decides which direction the game goes. Also, Todd is obviously a very smart player. Jim has been kind of representing a negate-ish effect.
Yes.
For a little while. Like, you have to imagine that the Bant Company decks have access to negate.
Yep.
And negate is very good against Todd's deck.
Yeah, he didn't cast Collected Company against you last turn. He's played a 2-drop and left 2 mana up again. You know, he is representing a card like that.
Now I want to see how he wants to use Jace.
Yeah, he's still wondering.
Plus on the Crassus. Highland Lake is the land. Pass the turn back. Tormenting Voice, Pyromancer Goggles. Those are the cards in hand for Anderson. We head back Davis as well. He'll draw. Picked up a Plains. Thing about Jim's hand, not a lot of action.
Not a lot going on.
But he does have Jace to kind of filter through the nonsense.
He does, and he has double negate to kind of hold down the fort while he's searching. But finding a Collected Company for him would just be massive.
Yeah.
Get to play it twice through Jace.
There's Canopy Vista. Just going to pass. A little bit of a standoff here. Anderson will draw Yavimaya Coast. Well, he's clearly going to try it. It ain't going to work. Negate's going to take care of this.
Yeah, that we can't let that onto the board.
No, you can't. Now, keep in mind, that's card number 4 in the graveyard for Davis right now. So if he uses his Jace, it will transform. I'm curious if he wanted to activate his Jace first to discard the 4th card.
Yeah, get the extra loot in there.
Yeah. Pass the turn back.
Yeah, if he had activated Jace first, it's one more activation he could get out of Jace later in the game. See one more card.
Oh, Jim found a good card. And this is one of those situations where Avacyn Archangel is not obvious. Excuse me, Archangel Avacyn is not obvious.
Yeah,
that's what he drew.
The way the game has been playing out, there's been a lot of untapped lands every turn.
Yep. So now you're going to see Jim transform his Jace. 5 counters, of course.
But with no relevant spells in his graveyard. It's only going up.
Back to Anderson.
It's a little funny that the Thing in the Ice has been on the battlefield for so long and hasn't lost a counter yet.
Here's another attempt at the goggles, and I cannot imagine Jim's going to let that one resolve either, so another negate will take care of that.
Yeah, I'm sure Todd was very happy with his draw step and a little chagrined when it didn't resolve.
Yeah. Now we go back Davis's way. He's picked up another land. It's funny, both these players' hands not particularly good. And Jim does not have much to do with that Jace, as you mentioned. It's just up to 7 counters.
Yeah, but Todd has the Tormenting Voice in his hand. He has another Tormenting Voice in his graveyard, so if he wants to, he can start churning through his deck very fast.
He's just drawing a copy of Magmatic Insight. I think he's going to start there. Yes, he will. Discard a Yavimaya Coast, remove a counter from Thing in the Ice. It's down to 3 ice counters as he draws 2 cards. Mountain is 1. Jace is 2. Where to go next if you're Todd Anderson?
Yeah, all right, Todd, what's the game plan here?
Well, ticking up on Bounding Grasses is pretty easy. And now playing another copy of Jace makes a lot of sense.
Well, you say it's easy, but if he feels like his opponent's going to start deploying something like Archangel Avacyn or a Collected Company, he might be more inclined to use the Jace to flashback one of his card drawing spells now to start finding answers and progress his game.
Very true. Anderson will just pass the turn back. Will Davis make his move with Archangel Avacyn? Remember, Jim's got a lot of fantastic draws here, too. You know, he draws Nissa, transforms immediately.
Yep. Collected Company, he'll get to cast it twice.
Always good. Reflector Mage actually pretty good on this board.
Yep.
Time for Jim to draw.
And it's interesting if Jace Ultimate is in either of these players' game plan to defeat the opponent.
Well, Jim's going to start checking the Jace now. What's this going to be? Tireless Trap. Ooh, boy.
That's a goodie.
That's really good. Prairie Stream.
And he wisely left the Evolving Wilds on the field.
Yeah.
You know, very heads-up play. You know, he could have cracked it earlier to thin the deck just a little bit.
If those percentages are so minor and the upside right now is so major.
Yes.
So now Jim is going to have a second clue. And Anderson's going to untap now. And he's in some trouble as he takes a draw. He's only got one more Pyromancer Goggles to work with, as the first 2 have been countered.
Yeah, with those clues representing 2 more cards for Jim, a significant board presence, the Jace way up on counters, Todd's in a lot of trouble.
And now it's time for Todd to get a move on.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure here. And even if he's able to flip the Thing in the Ice, Jim can immediately redeploy the Bounding Crassus, tap down the Awoken Horror, and have that immediate pressure on the board. Same with a card like Archangel Avacyn. Flash is a powerful effect.
It is. Magmatic Insight is the card that will be recast. A Jace and a Wandering Fumarole. Not what the doctor ordered. Might be time to try again. Thing the Ice down to 2 counters. Activate Jace. Draw a discard. Thing in the Ice. Not what the doctor ordered. Presumably. Bye-bye Mountain. So new Jace on 5. See a little shortcutting there. Down to 2. What's this going to be? The Axe. Going after Archangel Avacyn. What will Anderson discard? He'll discard Thing in the Ice. Archangel Avison down.
Players of the 1 p.m. two-head Giants challenge. Your pairings for round number 1 are being posted on blue paper on the side of the pairing.
Anything else to be done?
Two-head Giant round 1 pairings.
And there's a die above the Bounding Crassus right now, representing -2 power.
Yep.
I do not believe it has. Both Jaces went down this turn, didn't they?
The die's gone now.
Yeah, the die was left over from a
Yep.
previous turn.
Another Jace in the passing of the turn. Davis will draw. He's in the interesting situation, and one that you always want to be in as a player, where lands are good and spells are good.
Yep.
Lands will allow him to get clues, sacrifice those clues, make your tireless tracker larger.
And draw more lands.
Yep. So he plays a Prairie Stream. Another clue here for Jim.
Yeah, that tireless tracker is some good.
Aptly named. Bounding Crassus, Tireless Tracker. Look like they're coming into the red zone. Looks like it might just be the Tireless Tracker. Jace down. Jim's Jace is going to tick up. Target Thing in the Ice. I think the follow-up is a Morph, and it's a Den Protector. Always good.
Well, it's especially good if it gets bounced back to the hand by Thing in the Ice.
True.
You know, he'll get to rebuy the Avison or negate, have the Den Protector in his hand, and then rebuy another card.
Anticipate the draw here for Anderson.
Well, he's got to start with Jace. He can't cast any spells and send the Jace back to his hand.
Well, it looks like he's starting with Jace. Draw, discard. A Lightning Axe. Looks like he's going to discard Tormenting Voice. Starts on 5, of course. Down to 2. He's making a move. What's he going to get? Fiery Temper. Got it. He needs to slow down Jace.
Yeah. Which
That also is going to remove the last counter on Thing in the Ice, too.
But this is a big problem for him because Jim has an effective 2-pronged attack here. The Jace ultimate, big problem for Todd's deck. All the creatures that are going to stay on the board, big problem for Todd's deck.
Yep. So now Jim is going to think in response to this Fiery Temper and the removal of the Ice counter, which will transform the Awoken Horror, which will put, of course, the bouncing of all non-horror creatures on the stack. A lot for Jim to think about. So he's going to start by unmegamorphing a Den Protector. What does he want to target, however?
This is kind of interesting because he has to choose what he's targeting, and then Todd could potentially play his Lightning Axe to kill the Bounding Crassus so it doesn't end up back in Jim's hand.
Mm-hmm.
If Todd felt like he had to be able to attack with the Awoken Horror this turn.
He'd like to attack. Jim says absolutely not. Here's Anticipate. Top couple, Tormenting Voice is 1, Mountain is 2, Mountain is 3. Mountain is a selection. You know, throw an axe that way? Yep. Take care of the Crassus. All right, say go.
Yeah, and it's a little unfortunate. Like I said, it might have been a better play for Todd to do that before the Bounding Crassus got bounced to Jim's hand.
Yeah. When Jim starts making his responses.
Yeah.
He would have been able to kill the Jace that way.
Yes.
Hidden Dragon Slayer's face down. Keep in mind, Jim Davis did draw a copy of Collected Company for the turn.
He's got it all going on.
Yep.
You know, Todd's out of cards. He's losing his board.
Hidden Dragon Slayer going to unmegamorph. It'll get a counter, of course, and Awoken Horror dead. Jace went up to 7 for Jim.
And the key to this game those negates out of the sideboard.
They were huge.
Yeah.
They were absolutely huge.
You know, Goggles on the board for just 1 or 2 turns would have drawn Todd so many cards or doubled up on removal spells. Instead, Jim was able to trade his 2 mana for Todd's 5 and keep pressuring him.
And keep in mind as well, now as Jim's going to take a look at Todd's graveyard just to make sure that there's no absurd way that he can lose this game, because he's got such an advantage on cards right now. You know, Tireless Tracker's going to come back down probably at some point, going to allow him to keep drawing cards. And that's the thing, you know, the clues are something he can actually take advantage of right now. Because here's Wandering Fumarole, looking to block a Hidden Dragon Slayer. It does block effectively. Jim will gain a little bit of life because Hidden Dragon Slayer does have lifelink. And now Davis with Tireless Tracker. Fortified Village. That'll get a clue. 3 mana. Reflector Mage. Bounce the Wandering Fumarole. Todd wants to make sure he can replay the Wandering Fumarole.
Yeah, playing a land is not the same as casting a creature spell. So it depends on the wording of the Reflector Mage.
Yeah, he can't cast spells with the same name.
So he can redeploy the land.
Correct. You see the way that Jim played that turn out. Able to bounce the land, able to play Tireless Tracker, get another clue, of course, and have enough mana to crack a clue and keep it right on rolling. One thing he's going to be able to do, given the setup of his deck, is he's going to be able to use all of his mana basically every turn if he wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a couple clues in play already. This train's going to keep rolling along.
Todd will cash in his Jace. He's looking at Lightning Axe.
Yeah, no good options for him here. He's just been backed into such a corner. Normally, if he had Thing in the Ice on the board and the Pyromancer Goggles in play, cashing in a Jace is going to net him a huge advantage. Here it's just more of a desperation play. Can't get too far behind.
You see Lightning Axe is going to go after Tireless Tracker almost because it has to. Going to discard a Drowneyard Temple for a little bit of value. Tireless Tracker down. Jim not going to make a move. Now he'll crack a clue. He'll get a card. He'll untap. Take a draw step here. Now he's found Bounding Crassus and Archangel Avacyn.
Still has the Den Protector from earlier in the game as well.
You know, part of the reason that Kevin and Jim built their deck the way that they have this weekend, and they worked together pretty hard on this deck coming into Baltimore, is they want to be able to play a flash game.
Yeah.
That's what they said. You know, it's kind of the way that Kevin likes to play Magic in a general sense, and Jim has quite a bit of experience of playing decks like that, but they want to be able to play on their opponent's turn.
Well, and when you see them put cards like the Duskwatch Recruiter into their deck, it synergizes very well with that game plan.
Todd will play a Tormenting Voice, picked up 2 lands for the turn. So they can play on your turn, or they can play on their own, as there's a mountain. And Jim's deck does a very nice job of playing on his opponent's turn. You're going to see him play Eclectic Company right now. Take a look at the top 6. We'll see if he can find 2 creatures to put on the battlefield. Well, there's still an Advocate. Let's make it 2 of those.
A couple of 4/5s.
Yeah, not bad. You might be thinking Archangel Avacyn right now, too.
A little math. He's counting on his fingers.
Yep.
Has to use his toes.
Jim will sacrifice a clue to draw a card. And this is what he's found. We know Todd's left with just a land in hand. So Jim will draw a card here and prepare to attack one final time. He does have Archangel Avacyn in case anything would go wrong.
Yep, a little insurance policy there.
Yep. It's never a bad place to be as he attacks all of his creatures. Wandering Fumarole would like to try to block. There's a Bounding Crassus, and that is going to do it. Jim Davis is going to win this match over Todd Anderson, 2-1. Bant Company will take down Blue Air Control, the 2015 Players Champion. Best Todd Anderson yet again. That'll push them all into 11-2, and Anderson will fall down to 10-3, though both these players still very much in top 8 contention.